Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Sean, and today I am doing a review of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Okay, so a few years ago I had read or tried to read, I read about half of The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas, which is on the top 1000 list. 1,000 Books to Read Before You Die by James Mustich, as is The Count of Monte Cristo. They're both top 1000 books. I did not like The Three Musketeers. Even though it is sort of branded as like this great adventure story, one of the great adventure stories ever written, I thought the book was just so dreadfully boring. There were parts that were pretty interesting, pretty actiony, whatever, but about a third of the way into the book, there was seriously like 150 or 200 pages devoted to this plot where the characters have to go to London to retrieve a necklace for reasons. And so like 150, 200 pages, they're going to London to retrieve the necklace, and it's all for nothing. They don't need to do it at all. It's completely pointless in the end. So it was just so boring. I was really pessimistic after reading The Three Musketeers, reading The Count of Monte Cristo, because this book looked even longer and wordier than The Three Musketeers. So since I thought that other book was so boring, I was like, oh, this one's going to be unreadable. A couple things did give me a little hope. One of them is that a lot of booktubers have raved about The Count of Monte Cristo. Another thing is that in the film V for Vendetta, which is one of my favorite movies, the main character V, his favorite movie is The Count of Monte Cristo. And it's a revenge story, as is V for Vendetta. So I was kind of like, okay, well, if V likes it, I will want to like it as well. So, as I started the book and read really the first third of the book, maybe the first quarter of the book, I was actually liking it pretty well, and I was thinking, indeed, this could be on trajectory for a 4 or maybe even a 5-star rating. It was just pretty good. Basically, the plot of this book, just stuff you would find on the back of the book, so it's not really spoilery, is the main character, Edmond Dantes, is a sailor on this ship. He's about 19 years old, and he gets basically framed for this crime, and for that he is sent to this prison for many years. And ultimately he gets out, he comes into a vast amount of wealth, and then he embarks on a course of revenge to get back at the people who wrongfully accused him of this crime. So that all sounds really good. That's a real good premise. Revenge stories are pretty cool. However, then the book shifted to Italy, to Rome. And it's here where we also see the first major problem with the story. Edmond Dantes gets in contact with basically all these people from his past, his ex-lover, all the people who wronged him. He meets them all face to face under this guise of the Count of Monte Cristo, and none of them recognize him. Why? I get that it's been several years and he's into this wealth, so he may look a little different, he dresses nicer or whatever, but there's nothing to explain why no one recognizes him. And among them are like some of his best friends, the people he worked with, his lover, of course, his ex-lover, and the people who wronged him. None of them recognize him. And this is part of the problem with the story. Not just that none of them recognize him, but that he would embark on this quest of revenge where he meets all of them face to face in person multiple times over, I think, maybe a stretch of years, trusting that no one will recognize him. So basically, his entire plot, his plan, could be undone simply by people recognizing him, namely the people who wronged him. All they would have to do is say, hey, the escaped prisoner is here. That's him. This is the guy. And he would be thrown back in prison. So his whole plot hinges on them trusting them not to recognize him. Even his ex-girlfriend, his ex-fiance. So that's just bad, I think. The next problem with this book is Dantes' actual plan. And to do this justice, I would really have to read the book over again and write down every time something happens that is crucial to the plot that pertains to his plan, because so much of the book, it's either so far-fetched, like He had to plan to be in a certain room at a certain time with certain characters, trusting that they would say this vital piece of information, or that he would give this piece of information to a character who would give it to another character. Basically, his plan, quote unquote, to get back, to get revenge, it would have to be like 400 or 500 points long. And it's just so far-fetched. It would rely so much either on just like sheer act of God or coincidence. A lot of the book, I think, would rely on coincidence. Just a certain character walking into a room at a certain time and giving a certain piece of information that was crucial to the plot. It's just bad, really. If you're reading it, just not really thinking about it, you know, it may kind of make sense. But if you're actually trying to think, what is Dante's trying to accomplish? What is his plan? It would be ridiculous, like this really complicated plot, and just trusting all of it goes right, trusting just coincidence to just line up, trusting everything to fall into place, for nothing to go wrong, no one to recognize him. It's just bad. It's really ridiculous. It's a ridiculous plot. And that should really be the main thing of the book, is it's a revenge story. So the revenge plot should make sense. This plot does not make sense. It's ridiculous. And again, to do it justice, I would have to read the book again and write down every single plot point just to show how ridiculous it is. Dante's plan takes years to unfurl. So he comes up with his master plan that takes years in the making, trusting nothing to go wrong, no one to rat him out, no one to catch him as this fugitive. And why? If he's so hell-bent on revenge, why would he wait years to execute this really complicated plot when along that time, any time during that time, these villains could simply be killed off by natural causes? Like, what if they just have a heart attack and that keeps him from getting revenge because, oh, the person just died? What if they get in a wagon cart accident or something? There's so many ways for these characters to die. It just takes years. There's so many ways for them to have gotten impoverished or whatever all along that time. But no, he's just going to wait years to do this master complicated plot. It's just stupid. If you want revenge, just walk up to them, stab them in the back or stab them in the belly and say, haha, you betrayed me, but now revenge is mine. No, he's going to do this real complicated plot where he like gets ingrained in Paris high society. And that's another thing. So much of this book, about after a third of the way through or whatever, after basically it gets to Rome, so much of the book is just these rich families talking to each other about their problems and their family life and their relationships and whatever. And I just don't care. I just want Dante's to get revenge. So why doesn't he just go up, stab the people, grab Mercedes, his girlfriend, and go and get out? He has all this wealth. Just go up, kill the bad guys, grab his girl, go away. Go to some faraway place where he could hide away with his love, and he has all this fortune. But no, he is going to spend all of this money to basically become this high-class count and get in good with all these rich families, trust that no one will recognize him, trust everything will go according to plan, this real complicated plot. It's just stupid. Just walk up to him and stab him in the belly or stab him in the back and grab the girl and go. Done. Book over. Nope, that's not how Alexandre Dumas does it. He wastes all this book with all these pages. Something I have heard, and I don't know if this is true, but I have heard that I would keep wanting to say Dante's, in Alexandre Dumas's time, writers were paid by the word count. I don't know if that's true, but that would sound very true, because basically the word count of this book is vastly inflated. If the book was cut by like 200 pages, it may be decent. But as it is, oh, it's just so boring. Just like The Three Musketeers. Now, I would say this book was better than The Three Musketeers. The Three Musketeers did have flashes where it was decent, where it's action-y, adventure-y, whatever, but most of the book was just so boring. This book, at least the first third or quarter of it, was pretty good, and I was enjoying it, and I thought it would be a pretty good book. The last thing about this book that was really the nail in the coffin for me was about 70% in, we get this story about the Count's slave, Haiti. And so, yeah, he has a slave girl, which he bought in Greece or Turkey. And she, I think in the start of the book, is like 14 or 16. And so there's this chapter where she tells her story. And this is like 70% in. And when she was telling this, I was just like, why is this being introduced this late in the story? What does this have to do with anything? And why does this Count have this slave girl anyway? He's not going to do what I think he's going to do, is he? And yes, he does. Basically, this slave girl, who again is like 16 in the book, becomes the Count's new girl. Because his old girl, Mercedes, she's like 36 now or something. She has a kid. And so instead of getting back with her, as you would expect, what Alexandre Dumas does is he gives the Count a new love interest. And that's Haiti, his slave girl, and who is a minor at the start of the book. So she is like 16, 18, whatever. He is like 35, 40, because it's taken so long for his quest for revenge. He's at least 35 or so. So, 35-year-old dude with like an 18-year-old slave girl he bought winding up together. That is how the book ends. That is just really not comfortable to me for several reasons. One, that she is a slave. That is not cool. Two, that she is basically a minor. Even if she is not a minor at the time, she is still a minor when he knew her. So like he knew her when she was like 16. That is called grooming. If you're like in a relationship of any kind, even just like a friendship with a minor, and then you wind up getting together with him, that is grooming. Dumas, I think, does try to make it very clear, because the Count is like, go on, you're free, do whatever you want, go wherever. And the girl is like, no, I want to be with you. I'll die if I don't end up with you. And he's like, are you sure? And she's like, yes. And he's like, well, okay then. So, I mean, for Dumas's credit, he does like try to make the Count reluctant to get in this relationship with her or whatever. But still, it's not good enough for me. I just don't like this at all. So I just hated that. I just did not want her in the story. I did not want him to wind up with her. That's just not cool. So anyway, those are the problems with the book. The book is just too long. When it got to Rome and then to Paris, it was just so dreadfully boring. The Count's plot is stupid. It relies so much on coincidence and just people not recognizing him. And then the part with the slave girl at the end, who the Count winds up with. I just did not like that. So all these reasons combined, I just didn't really like the book. I did like the first third of it, but not after that. So rating it, I could only really give it 2 stars. So it is not a book I would recommend, really. I always say that I would really recommend people read every book, because you never know what you'll enjoy. And a lot of booktubers do like this book. So for that reason, I guess I would say you should probably try it out, just because it's so highly recommended by others. But personally, I would not recommend it. I think Alexandre Dumas's writing is really overhyped, both The Three Musketeers and this book. He's just way too long. His books are like 300 pages too long, and it's all talking about this well-to-do family stuff, and I just do not care. So anyway, that's it. Have you guys read this book? Have you seen the movies? I have not seen any of the movies, so I don't know. They may be improved from this book. And I know that some of the movies have changes where the Count does wind up with Mercedes. So yeah, so that's better, I think, from what audiences would expect. But anyway, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.